Tonight on Here and Now, it's a long list that's only getting longer. Nearly 200 people are on standby for surgery.
The wait list for heart surgery keeps growing, but health officials expect that will change.
And for the first time in the history of this province, we are going to have 5 super well-trained, outstanding cardiac surgeons here on a full-time basis. We've never, ever had that before.
It's nice from there, boys. Nice little tree. Made me happy.
Why?
Well, I'm sick, getting old.
One of Clarenville's best-known characters is battling cancer. But the man known as Booney for his beard, his generosity, and his Christmas trees, he's back in the woods. There has been some wet, windy, and unseasonably warm weather around parts of the province today. Ashley's going to break all of that down.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Heather Gillis. The wait list for heart surgery in this province has grown to almost 200 patients. That's because of a growing demand in Newfoundland and Labrador and a shortage of cardiac surgeons here in St. John's. As Here and Now's Mark Quinn reports, the line keeps getting longer.
The province's chief of cardiac care says the wait list for heart surgery is longer now than it was a year and a half ago. Back then, Dr. Sean Connors said there were 150 people on the wait list, and he hoped to get it down to 50 or 60 patients. But now it's gone the other direction. Connors says as of last week, 195 patients are waiting.
Waiting is terrible. No one hates waiting more than I do, and I can't imagine if I had to wait for heart surgery, how terrible it would be to wait with an open-ended, no date and so on. It's like going to the airport and you have a flight, but you have no idea what time or what day your flight's going to leave.
Connors says there was pent-up demand for surgery following COVID-19 restrictions, and this province also faced a shortage of heart surgeons for many months. Normally, the province has 4 surgeons, but at times this year there were only 2. Connors says the province has since hired 2 heart surgeons and expects to have another one in early 2024.
For the first time in the history of this province, we are going to have 5 super well-trained, outstanding cardiac surgeons here on a full-time basis. We've never, ever had that before. Our quota was 4. We think the biggest challenge we have in the delivery of cardiac surgery is capacity.
The opposition leader says his phone has been ringing with calls from people patiently waiting their turn. He wants the province to be less reactionary and act on their long-term plans.
To hear that the wait list has gone up instead of down is, tremendously disappointing. And for people that are out there and families that are out there, that this is something that they hold their breath for.
Connors says help is on the way. He says he's optimistic that the new Cardiovascular and Stroke Institute announced last winter will be built within the next 5 years. But the PCs say the government is acting too slowly. The Progressive Conservatives say back in 2019, they promised a similar institute in their Blue Book. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Still with health news, the provincial government is defending the builders of the new Corner Brook Hospital. The infrastructure minister says there are minor deficiencies which are being addressed quickly. He says the hospital will be up and running this spring as planned. Here and Now's Terry Roberts reports.
John Abbott summoned reporters today to give his full-throated support for the partnership that is building the new Western Memorial Regional Hospital in Corner Brook. Is this building a lemon, a dud?
Absolutely not.
Abbott was responding to a charge by the provincial opposition that hundreds of deficiencies remained when this photo op with the Premier took place a month ago. Documents obtained by the PCs revealed there were more than 2,700 items not up to standard. Deficiencies ranging from problems with floors and ceiling tiles to water leaks and what's known as rough finishes. Old news, says the infrastructure minister.
This is definitely no smoke, no fire. But Mr. Penton decided to raise it obviously for his own reasons.
Abbott says workers are rectifying those deficiencies in big numbers every day.
When he requested the information, he was given 2 reports. An initial report of I think there's 2,748 deficiencies. The second report, that number had come down to 339. and currently it stands at 261 so-called deficiencies.
Abbott described the deficiencies as minor, with most related to floor trim. He says government inspectors are scrutinizing the building, room by room, floor by floor, and he has full confidence in the builders.
The contractors have performed quite well. If you realize they had to build and construct this and hire staff through the COVID period, and they met all of those challenges. We're quite pleased with the end result.
Abbott says the plan to open the 164-bed hospital next spring remains on track. The new hospital is being built through a public-private partnership. This fall, the province made a progress payment of $320 million, 50% of the contract value, to the Corner Brook Health Partnership. The remaining balance will be paid over the next 30 years. The PC critic who raised concerns about the new hospital was not backing off today. Barry Pettin says the $320 million payment should never have been made while so many deficiencies were outstanding.
You wouldn't take a new home without make sure with deficiencies and make payments and open the mortgage. You wouldn't do the final sign-off until everything was completed. Supposing that was a doorknob. So what makes the hospital any different, especially with public money? Because it's not Liberal money or Andrew Furey money. This is public funds, and they have a right to know.
Abbott stressed that as part of the P3 model, any problems with the building going forward are the responsibility of the partnership, which is being paid to build, finance, and maintain the hospital. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
People on the island's southwest coast are preparing yet again for bad weather. That area is expected to get a lot of rain, wind over the next few days. The mayor of Channel Port-aux-Basques says these types of forecasts make many in the community nervous after post-tropical storm Fiona.
Whether it's myself or it's the community at large, I mean, there's a sense of anxiety all the time now when we're looking at weather forecasts. Ever since our community went through Fiona and experienced that type of weather, things haven't been the same. We certainly know when there's weather coming in, you can feel it all around the community. You know, weather is the biggest topic in Newfoundland and Labrador. People talk about it all the time. But when we talk about weather here now, you can just sense that anxiety that people are a little bit on edge and just wondering how it's all going to fare out.
Well, it has been incredibly mild across Labrador with many record-breaking temperatures over the last 24 hours. So it's all green grass and clear roads in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Here's what it looked like in Lab City last night, where the warmer weather brought flooding and closed schools yesterday. And a different story today is temperatures are back down to more seasonable in the minus teens. Now in Cartwright, not only was it warm, but it was the wind that caused problems, flipping over boats and damaging infrastructure around the water. Now the good news is the wind warnings all along the coast and the west coast of the island have since ended, but we still have a number of rainfall warnings in place, including up across or along the strait rather. That flash freeze warning still very much in place as well up across Labrador, and still under a wreck house wind warning. Now expecting those winds to continue as we head through the night tonight. This wind and rain will eventually turn wintry. Environment Canada has issued a winter storm watch, and this is for the Thursday-Friday timeframe. We'll certainly get into all of that. But for now, the big story is the rain. Lots of rain working its way across the western portion of the province today. A little bit of a break at the moment in that rain, but if I zoom out, there is a lot more where that came from, tapping into some of that tropical moisture along that cold front there. Expecting that to continue tonight. Models still pointing at significant rainfall amounts. Again, in the higher elevations, we could pick up in excess of 200 millimeters of rain, and we should see that work its way up along the coast. We'll get into the full forecast details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. A St. John's organization is getting federal funding to help seniors stay at home longer. Federal officials announced $800,000 for Connections for Seniors today. The money is a part of the Age Well at Home initiative. It's going to be used for things like food hampers, housekeeping, and transportation. The organization's founder says demand for its programs is growing, and the money will help in both the short and long term.
As we're seeing more seniors coming through our doors and asking for support and help, that will immensely change that. That funding also, we always wanted to create sustainability within our programs and self-sufficiency through some of our programs, and I think that funding also will help us through hiring a manager to oversee that those programs and see how can we embed sustainability within those programs. So it's two things. It's an immediate help for seniors in the community and long-term plan as well as we move forward with our programs.
The Community Food Sharing Association says the demographics it's seeing are changing. More seniors are relying on food banks in the province, but so are working families. One woman who uses the food bank is sharing her story tonight, and that's in an effort to break the shame she once felt when asking for help. Here and now's Arlette Lazarenko has her story.
It's cozy here in Deborah Price's living room, full of holiday decorations. But her kitchen cabinets are another story. More often than not, they're empty.
The first time I ever thought about going to the food bank, it was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Oh my God, what are people going to think? I felt really guilty and really ashamed. And I cried the whole way there and I cried the whole way home.
Price lost her job years ago after getting sick and has been dipping into her savings ever since. She lives in a subsidized Newfoundland housing unit, receives some help from child benefits, a small pension from her daughter's deceased dad. It all adds up to less than $1,000 a month.
Maybe if I had put more money away, because I used all my reserves, I used every cent that I had in my savings, hoping that we would never get to this place. And I never let myself think about getting to this place because I never thought in a million years I ever would. And then when I got here, I didn't know how to cope with it.
She says hunger comes in many forms and has many faces, but when it hits, it all hurts the same.
You get this terrible aching pain in your stomach, and your stomach growls and the stomach growls, and it's just pain, pain, pain. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. I wish I had something to eat, anything.
Price is just one of many lining up at local food banks this year. And the Community Food Sharing Association says people are coming from various circumstances.
There's a whole bunch of different demographics of people that are coming. What we're seeing right now is a lot more working families, two-parent working families that just simply can't make ends meet at the end of the month now, and they're having to avail of the services of the food bank.
Price wants to correct the misconceptions, broaden people's views about who leans on the food bank for support. It could be a student, a senior, or someone like her.
Hunger doesn't have to be down and out. Hunger is living inside a home, probably next door, or hunger is the house with the Christmas tree in the window, or hunger is everywhere.
She says she's no longer afraid to ask for help and doesn't want anyone else to be afraid either.
Don't be ashamed to say you're hungry. Don't be ashamed to say I need help. I'm hungry. Because somebody out there will always, hopefully, be able to help you.
Arlette Lazarenko, CBC News, St. John's.
And as you heard there in Arlette's story, more and more people are relying on food banks than ever before, and the need is particularly great now during the holidays. CBCNL is partnering with the Community Food Sharing Association to help make the season kind. And it's not too late to support local food banks by making a donation online. Donations will be accepted until December 31st, or you can scan the QR code that you see here on the screen, or visit cbc.ca/bekind. Moving on now, his nickname is a nod to a famous frontiersman, and he's one of Clarenville's best-known characters. But while his beard and his heart are as big as ever, Ralph Lethbridge is not the man he used to be. However, there's still plenty of fight left in the man known as Boonie. Here and now's Terry Roberts.
This is where Boonie feels most at home, hunting for the perfect Christmas tree.
Look, another nice one there, boy.
But it's been a few years since Ralph Lethbridge has done this. That's because cancer is ravaging his 79-year-old body, sapping his strength.
Red there, boy.
But Booney is a showman, so when he's asked to knock down a tree for old time's sake, he's up for the challenge. First, his trusty buck saw.
I had to take a break.
But the wood is wet and sticky. It's a struggle.
You'll come down in a minute.
So he finishes the job with an axe.
I got me, son.
After years of chemotherapy and pills, Booney is back.
How does it feel to have done that now today?
Couldn't ask for better. Made me happy. Made me happy.
For 4 decades, Booney's trees were in high demand. And if you couldn't afford it, no problem.
Give them trees, poor. Give them a turkey. I always hand out candies for the little ones. Always. Just help people out.
The Christmas tree side hustle, his reputation for giving, and his free-spirited personality made Booney a household name.
Stop breathing, I gotta have smoke.
He could even be mistaken for Santa if Santa smoked 4 packs a day.
It was in the blood, boy. I can spend all day here now like this up there.
He's the oldest of 16 children. He's worked as a sailor, fisherman, logger. He hunts and traps. The sign on the dining room wall is fitting. Sarcasm and wit are his calling cards.
Soup time!
Meet Lady Lethbridge.
And my dumplings. Now we're going to have a little feed.
Virginia is the wind beneath Booney's wings. Proud of their 2 children and grandchildren, Mr. and Mrs. Kindness. Their front door constantly opening to welcome family and friends.
Another crowd to feed. Come on in, boys.
We're like alike when it comes to liking people and doing good for everybody. That's why I think we're still together.
Virginia's soup, it's legendary, and so is her patience. After all, she's been married to Booney for 57 years.
If you see me when I get mad, you wouldn't say I was in any saint. You say Spitfire.
This is Booney Lethbridge, a Clarenville celebrity.
I'm going to look beautiful with 2 blue eyes and 2 front teeth. Happiest man in the world.
7 years ago, Booney sacrificed his signature beard to help raise money for ALS, nearly $60,000. He also has a Medal of Bravery for saving a man from drowning. Some say Virginia also deserves a medal.
He's been sick a lot, but I'm there for him. I've always been there for him, right? Sometimes I say, if you don't treat me better, I'm going to leave you. But I never would. I never would do that.
Booney doesn't ask for much. A whiskey, cigarette, time with family.
He was always there for us, and I'll always be there for him, much as I can. I love the guy.
Thank you.
I love him.
And after today, Booney is inspired, more determined than ever to keep fighting the cancer so he can get back into the tree business.
I'm going to have the last go out with a bang with the Christmas tree open. I'm going to try it 1 more year next year if I'm alive. I got to.
With Booney, everything is a bang. Life is large.
Off into the sunset.
And he plans to stretch out life's journey as long as he can. Terry Roberts, CBC News, Clarenville.
Go for it. If you have your skate, go for it. Good job.
Well, despite the balmy weather in St. John's, the Loop at Bannerman Park opened this morning and a few eager beavers were hopping on the fresh ice. The popular winter attraction will allow skaters the chance to circle the park from 10 in the morning until 10 at night. However, it's all weather permitting, of course, and you can check out the Loop line for details.
If you are expecting to get a dramatically larger, more effective transit scheme by 2030, the time is now.
St. John's wants more people on the Metro bus, but one researcher says cutting funding isn't the answer.
Take a look at these temperatures today. Double digits across a good chunk of the island and Labrador. A number of records broken. We'll talk about that. There's winter weather on the way as well. We'll talk about that when I come back.
A season of giving, a season of kindness. Let's make the season kind for those in need. CBC is helping support local food banks this holiday season. Visit cbc.ca/bekind to find out how you can help.
Welcome back to Here and Now. And Ashley, you would hardly say that it's a few days before Christmas because in some places in the province today it was positively tropical.
It really was. Definitely felt like spring. Even, you know, sometimes June isn't even this warm across parts of the province. But yes, 18 degrees in Daniels Harbour. That was the hot spot for today. In fact, it was the hot spot in Canada for most of the morning. This afternoon didn't break a record, though, surprisingly, not a monthly record anyway, but certainly did across a number of areas in the province. St. Anthony, one of them. And take a look at the numbers over the last, well, this is the last 5 plus 6, I should say. dates in December where we've seen those monthly highs. Most of them, 4 out of the 5 of them, were this year. You've broken your record twice this month. That is absolutely incredible. But if you take a look at some of the other monthly records across the province, St. Anthony and Mary's Harbour, Makkovik, and Churchill Falls all broke their record twice in December, your monthly record in December. So incredible warmth out there. Those temperatures, 14 degrees in Cartwright today. That is, you should be sitting somewhere between -8 and -15 as your daytime high. So we're going to see this warmth generally continue as far as above seasonable goes, but your temperatures up across Labrador are starting to drop. You're down to 5 degrees in Makkovik at the moment, 9 in Cartwright, and still hanging on to those double-digit temperatures for most of the island at the moment, with the exception along the south coast of the island. Big drop in temperatures, though, for those of you in the west. You topped out at about 7 degrees this morning in Lab City, dropped to -7 in 3 hours, hence that flash freeze. And we're seeing that cold air work its way further east at the moment as well. Now, our temperatures are going to stay mild tonight across the island, anywhere from 8 to about 12 degrees. That big drop in temperatures continuing for Lab City, and then you'll see that drop in temperatures further east as we head through the night tonight across Labrador. Now, most of the strongest winds are over for the most part. We're still going to see those southerlies, though, gusting anywhere from 60 to about 80 kilometers per hour on the west coast and about 50 to 70 in the east. Now, the rain very much still happening. We're seeing a bit of a break in the heavier rain at the moment, but there is lots more where that came from. And we'll continue to see this pump that rain further north as we head through the night tonight, and we'll see it creep a little bit further east as well. Areas through central may see some showers as far as the future tracker is showing as well through the overnight period, but a big bout of rain moving again in tomorrow, a second round essentially, and that one's going to meander a little bit further east. So we'll start to see some shower potentials through central, maybe a little bit of a rainy day for you, and then certainly as we head into the evening hours tomorrow night, your Wednesday evening, I should say, we're going to see that rain continue. Now, the other thing to note with this system, in behind that, some colder air wrapping in, and you're definitely going to see some wintry weather through the overnight period and into Thursday. This will continue to spread further east as we head through the day on Thursday. Eventually, we will see that rain move further east with it, as will that rain-snow line. So Environment Canada does have that winter storm watch in place from essentially Corner Brook, Deer Lake, up through the northern peninsula, including Green Bay, White Bay. So we're still talking about a significant amount of snow happening as well, but that rain, definitely the first part of this. This is number one, let's say. We're still looking at anywhere from 100 to 200 millimeters of rain. Those higher elevations, you may see more than that, but it's the snow. We're talking about definitely a white Christmas for a good chunk of the west coast, and by the time we get into Saturday, we could be talking about 10 to 15 centimeters of snow for the metro area as well. Definitely a little bit of disagreement, but if you have any travel plans Thursday, Friday, you're definitely going to want to pay attention to the forecast. Our temperatures tomorrow are going to stay mild again, anywhere from 7 to 11 degrees across the island. The winds will eventually ease, which is nice, and up across Labrador, back into those minus double digits for Lab City. The rest of the big land, still looking at some mild temperatures, around 6 degrees for Mary's Harbour tomorrow, but again, that temperature will change. We'll get into the long-range forecast when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. A St. John City Councillor is stepping down, saying he no longer feels motivated in the role. Ian Froud is resigning as Ward 4 Councillor effective this Friday. Froud says after 6 years on the job, it's time for someone else to guide the city forward. He says he wants to turn his attention to his family and business. In a statement today, Froud writes that this is an important time for the city. He says St. John's has an opportunity to help usher in more equitable housing options that will create a more sustainable future. And with the Canada Games less than 2 years away, he says there's significant economic opportunity. Froud is encouraging someone with more energy and motivation and a good heart to run for Ward 4. Froud is also saying that this is a significant time for public transportation because Metrobus ridership is at a historic level. However, the city is slashing $1.4 million from the bus budget. It says the boost in business means Metrobus should be able to contribute more cash towards operating. On the Go host Anthony Germain spoke with a concerned resident this week who worries about the future of the transit system.
Metrobus here in the St. John's area has more riders than it's ever had before. It's posted a significant surplus. The city's decided to take some of that surplus. David Brake says that's a mistake. So David, what are your concerns?
Well, my concerns is it gives precisely the wrong message. For years, I would guess the argument around the council table has been there aren't that many riders, so we don't need to support the Metrobus adequately. Now, there clearly are more than enough riders, and indeed the demand is clearly there. But what do? They use that as a reason to claw the money back. When there's a desperate need, and their own forward planning indicates that they need to be investing more in their service. They say they're going to wait until they get a growth plan. They're going to have to support a growth plan. They know that there is a need for growth. Why not use the money they have to start buying the buses and planning towards there being a plan?
With respect to what the actual mission statement of Metrobus is, what's your sense of how this jives or clashes with that?
Well, the city has committed by 2030 to increase the proportion of people who are walking and using the buses. And part of that projection, the bus part, requires more or less a 60% leap in ridership numbers by 2030. Well, we've already seen 44%, and the system is under stress. And we don't know how long that 44% will last. But if you are expecting to get a dramatically larger, more effective transit scheme by 2030, the time is now to prepare the ground, to build public support, to buy the buses, to train the bus drivers and so on. You need that time. The time to start is now.
There's also the fact, we've got all these kids behind us, and the whole idea of some of the environmental commitments that we've made is to make a better future for these kids. Where do you think this money should go with respect to our environmental commitments, and how does the transit system fit into making us greener?
Well, there is, for example, a bus electrification plan, also long delayed. I see no sign, although I hope to be proven wrong, that all electric buses will also be coming online in time for our commitments. But the fact is that diesel or electric buses are absolutely crucial in taking the biggest, or one of the biggest single things we have control over as a city out of the equation, which is the transportation we're using all over. So every bus that rolls around that enables someone to not run a car is saving a very significant amount of carbon dioxide.
All right, David Brake, appreciate your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would say, honestly, at this point, I think it's best to just stay away from AI altogether.
Coming up on Here and Now, artificial intelligence and accusations of plagiarism. Why Memorial University's student union is urging caution. Welcome back to Here and Now. The fall semester for Memorial University's students wrapped up last week. Students have been seeing a big increase in accusations of plagiarism, and it's why Mackenzie Broders with the student union is urging caution when writing papers and exams. Here's why.
Yeah, so I would say this semester especially, but this year I think overall we've seen a really big increase in the number of accusations that are being made about AI, students using AI on exams. In some cases we're seeing that students are actually using AI on exams. In most cases they don't realize that it's potentially an offense, that it's something that they're not allowed to do. And then in other cases students are being wrongly accused. So there's a lot of anxiety I think about it right now, but we're seeing a lot of accusations going around at the university.
And how are students using AI in order to get themselves in this situation?
Absolutely. So this is a big question, is how do you use AI and at what point does it become academic misconduct? So a lot of people use things like Grammarly, even ChatGPT can be used to check grammar, to check your spelling, your sentence structure, all of those things. It's a great resource for those uses. But what's happening is oftentimes ChatGPT or even Grammarly will rearrange your sentences, will maybe present your arguments in a bit of a different way, and as soon as you're taking the text that's being generated by those programs and putting it in your paper, submitting it to a professor, that constitutes academic misconduct. And where that line is still a little bit unclear.
How is the use of AI being treated by professors and the university?
So right now there hasn't been a policy developed that treats it otherwise. So right now it's being considered the exact same as what we would call maybe traditional plagiarism. So it's being used in basically the same way that copying out of a library book or something using an unauthorized aid, it's being treated in those ways. The problem that we're seeing with that is that those other forms of plagiarism are sometimes a little more obvious. They're things that students are a lot more familiar with. So, I mean, you think copying out of a library book, obviously that's going to feel wrong to a student. We're not at a point where it's obviously wrong when not ChatGPT, but AI use in general is wrong. So it's just confusing, I think, in general.
Yeah. And what kind of penalties are students facing for this?
So if you're accused at the unit level, which it depends on sort of the volume of work, what kind of assignment you're being accused on. If you're accused at the unit level, sometimes it can involve resubmitting the assignment, taking a 0 on the assignment, or some other things. If you're accused at the Senate level, so that's if your work is over 40% of your term grade or on a final exam, then you can be looking at suspensions of up to 1 to 2 semesters or even more, academic probation, 0 in the course, and some other things. And that's pretty standard for what we're seeing.
That's pretty hefty penalty. How many students are seeing this sort of accusation and penalty?
It's hard to get a number. In terms of the students that are looking at suspensions, I want to say we've considered, I think, 12 cases that have resulted or could have potentially resulted in suspensions at that level in this semester. And then we're seeing even more at the unit level. So it's often happening on assignments and professors are wanting to deal with it themselves rather than escalating it to the Senate level. But we don't get an accurate number of how many are happening at that level because often students are coming to us when they're there. So often what we're seeing is profs are using, there's a lot of online AI checkers. So you can sort of paste some text in and it'll tell you maybe what percentage of chance there was that something was written by AI. Those are extremely unreliable and it's what a lot of professors are using to make accusations. So I've even seen within the last week, there was a student whose professor ran their assignment through one of these checkers. It came back as potentially AI generated. And so there was an accusation leveled against the student. The student went back and said, absolutely not. There's no way that I did that. And the professor actually rescinded those accusations. So, there are false accusations being made, and that's really concerning because there is no reliable way, really. It's often just at the discretion of a professor, and that's I think, a big part of the anxiety that people are feeling right now.
So, Mackenzie, what kind of advice do you have for students when they return to school now in January?
I would say, honestly, At this point, I think it's best to just stay away from AI altogether. I know it's hard. It's a really great tool. It's very exciting. It's not going away. And I want to say that I do recognize that it's here to stay, I think. It's something we're going to have to get used to. But at this point, we're not used to it yet. And I think until, professors, the university, students have all adjusted, I think the best thing to do is, stick to the way that people have been writing papers for a long time. Try to avoid it as much as you can.
It's a bizarre cult film.
Love, murder, mental illness, Newfoundland independence.
There's a sickness or darkness in there that's like a fish hook in your abdomen while you're laughing.
We were the very first feature film produced in Newfoundland.
And was the most insane style to make a film that you could imagine.
We had a lot of people who had never acted before. That's not necessarily a great idea.
People made movies in Hollywood. People didn't make movies in Newfoundland. Fasten your seatbelts and come along for the ride.
And that's all I can say, I think. I don't know.
Welcome back. Dara Scholar loves to visit St. John's. He's from Ontario, but has made a trip to the city every fall for the past 5 years. But when he's in town, he likes to give back, repaying people's kindness with scarves. This year, he set up shop with needles and yarn at a downtown cafe.
I was born in Peterborough, Ontario, and I was of an Irish background. And I just had wonderful friends who got me interested in sports. And from that, we were quite a hockey team. And we were a farm team for the famous Montreal Canadiens. We all wore number 9 for Rocket Richard. And then they had a fantastic goaltender named Jacques Plante. And I saw a documentary of him on TV, and he said he knitted scarves. And my mother happened to be taking a course. I said, Mom, you got to teach me how to knit scarves because Jacques Plante knits. So then I took up a little hobby of knitting. And I see someone who I'm interested in. I just ask them what your favorite color is, and they say brown. So I knit them a brown scarf.
One day he asked me that, what's your favorite color? I told him my favorite color is pink. And after, I think 2 weeks later, he gave me a present, which is this scarf. As you see, it's pink, my favorite color. And I was so affected how nice this guy.
Just enjoyment of seeing the person's reaction and stuff, and it's practical. You know, everyone can wear a scarf in the fall and the winter. So I thought, and I think it's good for my mind as well.
As the year draws to a close, the rising cost of living has become one of the most important things on the minds of Canadians. It's a hot political topic. And one of the things CBC's chief political correspondent Rosemary Barton talked to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau about in a wide-ranging year-end interview. Trudeau acknowledges that Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has been getting a lot of political mileage out of the subject.
The rate of inflation has declined overall, but the food inflation is still punishing for a lot of Canadians. They're feeling squeezed. They have to make really hard choices. Do I get Christmas presents? Do I buy this many groceries? Like, those are real things that are happening to people. It does seem, though, as though Pierre Poilievre understood that and tapped into that long before you did.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, why is that? Why did you not see
I mean,
that?
it's not that he understood that. It's that he's done a really effective job of reflecting that back and amplifying it to people. We've been hearing that across the country for years now.
But why did you not reflect it back and amplify it back? Why did that room why was that room left to him?
It wasn't necessarily left to him, but when you're trying to solve an extremely complex situation that requires a number of different solutions. Yes, we delivered a grocery rebate. Yes, we cut childcare fees in half. Yes, we stepped up with increasing the Canada Child Benefit. Yes, we're working on competition to make sure that the big grocers, don't take advantage of the very small number of very large grocery chains in this country. Those are all complex and different paths. Whereas if you're just shouting and saying, it's Trudeau's fault. He's raising the price of everything because he's fighting climate change and put a price on pollution. That's a really easy message. And the things that we are doing are meaningful and real and thoughtful, and you know, we're busy doing them, not just sort of taking out YouTube space on amplifying those concerns.
You can hear more of what the Prime Minister has to say on affordability and housing measures tonight on The National. Rosemary Barton's full year-end interview with Trudeau airs on next Monday, that's Christmas Day, at 12 noon Island time, half an hour later in most parts of Labrador. Well, the busy holiday season can be a stressful time for travelers, and the Berlin airport has found a different approach to help people cope with the strain. Isn't that cute? Passengers are delighted to meet these furry four-legged friends with tails wagging, looking for a treat and a snuggle. The therapy dogs are a welcome way to put travelers at ease and pass time before boarding a plane. The pups all belong to a local dog association that arranges the airport visits during peak travel times.
Merry Christmas from Ted and Daryl.
There's not a lot to do here except play music and have a good time, you know.
Yeah, you know, unemployment breeds creativity.
You know, when Friday came around, it wasn't like, oh, what are we going to do? It was just like, okay, who's playing at the hall tonight?
Just when that, you know, Seattle thing was just affecting like the radio and stuff, there was this whole amazing scene that was happening here.
We just really wanted to sound like what we were listening to.
What had been a vibrant underground scene at that particular point exploded.
He was the one who was organizing most of the shows.
He was this enigma that just lived at CHMR.
I don't know what made it so special then, but it was special.
Welcome back. Before the break there, we saw some pretty cute puppies at the airport in Berlin helping out some travelers. You got lots of weather on the way, Ashley. Will travel start to get hectic over the next couple of days?
It certainly will across the island. If you have any travel plans Thursday into Friday, you're certainly going to expect some wintry weather. So let's just jump right into the forecast to show you what's going to happen as we head into Wednesday evening and then eventually into Thursday. So some of that colder air, we talked about this a little earlier in the show, but that colder air is going to wrap around and we still have that moisture associated with it. And because of that, it looks like we're going to see some fairly heavy snow starting overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning for southeastern portions of Labrador, the northern peninsula. And where you see that pink line there is either a rain snow, it's a mix of precipitation. It could be freezing rain, could be ice pellets. And then on the other side of that, we're still seeing that mild air along with some rain. So that snow will encompass all of the west coast by the time we get into Thursday evening, with that mix line heading further east through central, and eventually we'll see some showers. We haven't really seen anything yet as far as rain is concerned across the eastern portion of the island, but that will come Thursday evening and eventually into Friday as well. So big drop in temperatures down back to the minus single digits, 0 degrees around Corner Brook. And then Grand Falls, Windsor, you're hovering around 9 degrees to start, but your temperatures will drop as the day goes on and you see that transition through to snow. Gander hanging on to those double-digit temperatures, and St. John's, you should hover around 7 degrees. Now up across Labrador, minus 15 in Lab City. Again, you are going to sit this one out. Thursday evening into Friday, that colder air starts to head further east, and we will see that transition through to snow as well. Eventually, by Friday evening, we will start to see some of that snow for the Avalon as well. Now, this is the day that if you have any travel plans, you are definitely going to want to postpone them. Our temperatures will be hovering around the 0 degree mark. We're also looking at cooler temperatures towards the west, but again, some windy conditions. So it's certainly not going to be nice. Environment Canada has that winter storm warning, watch rather, where we could see 30, maybe even 60 centimeters of snow in total. Long range forecast showing that drop in temperatures Saturday and Sunday, hopefully. We might see a white Christmas, but daytime highs will sit below 0 on Saturday. And then for central and western Newfoundland, you're looking at the unsettled conditions again, minus single digits right through the weekend. And then as far as Labrador is concerned, pretty nice as far as sunshine is concerned on Friday, but Saturday, Sunday, some flurries. And that will be the story for Lab West as well. Your temperatures a little milder. minus 8 or minus 9. Our weather photo of the day, speaking of mild temperatures, this is in Rigolette. Didn't stop the little guys from being outside and enjoying the icy snow there. Thank you to Sherry for that wonderful shot. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, well, boys, it looks like you're doing a great job cleaning up.
That's all you can do about it.
Exactly. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us. That's our show tonight. Good night.